back with another 392 swap. So we got a 392 engine with the 8-speed automatic out of a 2017 Challenger. So we got the complete cradle front and everything out of a Challenger to make it work in a Chrysler 300 right here in the background. So basically all the parts that I got laid out right here is everything that we're gonna need to be able to install a Challenger into a 4-door Chrysler or Dodge Charger or whatever, Magnum, whatever. So this is a new body style, dashboard, center console, all the pedals right here. We got the AC control. We got the engine bay fuse box harness right here. This is the body harness right here. We got all the modules connected to the harness. And we got the 309 LSD rear end. So let's check out the car that all these parts are about to go into. We have a real Chrysler SRT8. This got a 6.1 engine with a 5-speed automatic. This car runs and drives perfectly fine. Just the customer wants to update to a bigger engine and a better transmission, and also the newer dashboard and all, you know, because the radio's got CarPlay and stuff like that. So this is a real 6.1 Hemi. It's got the intake, it's got the orange block, and it's got the headers. So it's the real deal. So we're taking this motor out and we're gonna put it in a whole nother car also. But for the time being on this video, we're gonna teach you how to scat pack swap using a Challenger in a 4-door Chrysler 300 or Charger or Magnum. And we're gonna get very detailed on how to wire up all these wires and hook up everything into the interior, because a lot of videos only show the basics, like how to take the engine and transmission out. Everybody knows how to take the engine and transmission out. Rear end, everybody knows how to swap rear ends out. The exhaust, everybody knows how to do all that. So we're not gonna get very detailed into doing the easy stuff that everybody has basic mechanical knowledge on. So we're gonna get very detailed into how to make this Challenger body harness work in a 4-door car. And this parts that we have laid out right here is everything that's needed. Gas tank, engine bay harness and fuse box, body harness and fuse box. This is the AC control that sits on the Firewall. This is the dashboard. We got all the pedals right here. We got the rear end, we got the center console. We got everything right here needed. Fans, radiator, coolant jugs, computer, intake, brakes. All this stuff came from the same car, the Challenger. All the modules, the computers, we also have the key. Everything's matching, so when we put everything from this car in there, it's gonna start up and run. No tuning, no nothing, just press the key. This 6.1 is about to go on another car for on the next video, so stay tuned. All right, so I'm gonna show you all the car before we start tearing it apart. So it does have Brembos all the way around, because this is, like I said, it's an SRT8. Check out the interior. So basically everything in the interior, like the seats and all the trim and the headliner and stuff and door panels, are going to stay the same that what you're seeing now. The only thing that's going to be different is the dashboard and the center console. And we're also going to be taking the body harness out that's underneath the carpet that runs through the whole car all the way to the back. We're going to be replacing that harness with the Challenger one. I'm going to show you how to plug in every single plug and how to take out dashboards. We're going to teach you everything on this video. But like I said, this car does run. Looks good. It's got good oil pressure too. Guess I'm gonna start removing everything in the engine bay. Evan, he's gonna start removing everything on the interior. But basically, the first steps, you're gonna want to remove all the seats. Get all the seats out, remove the carpets, remove the center console, and then you're gonna want to unplug. Oh, really? You gotta take out the glove box. You gotta take out this kick panel right there, and you gotta unplug all the wires on that side, all the wires on this side, because the body control is right there, but the body harness lays out underneath the carpet, and the harness is going to come up underneath the carpet and curl up right here and plug in. There's going to be a bunch of plugs right there and a bunch of plugs on this side. So once you get those undone, there's going to be a bolt here and a bolt here, a couple bolts on the side right there, and then some bolts across the front of the dashboard. Once we get there, we'll show you how to take everything apart. But first thing we're going to do is take these seats and carpet out. The steps to take the back seat out, you want to pull the bottom up right here in the front on both sides. It's got a little metal piece that clips into the rubber. You pull up real hard and the back seat will come out. And once you get the bottom out, you lean the back seat forward, and then you'll have these bolts right here. It'll have this right here, 18mm nut holding the seat in. You take all those off and you'll be able to take the back out of off the seat. And once we get the back seat out, we start working on the front seats. Now the front seats, you see this is the bolt here on each side. So there's 2 bolts in the back, 2 bolts in the front. So you want to leave the battery hooked up when you're doing this step so you can be able to move the seat back and forth, because you got to move the seat all the way forward to get to these back bolts, and then you would have to move the seat all the way back to get to the front bolts. And also, these are a special socket. You can see the socket right there. So it's an E12, fits perfectly on it. And if you don't have an E12, you can get a 10mm socket to fit there, but sometimes the 10mm socket will strip out on the head. So this is the actual right socket to use, E12. So in Chrysler 300s and Chargers, the seat belt actually bolts to the seat. All right, so 2 bolts in the back, 2 bolts in the front. You got to unplug these from the bottom of the seat, and the seat belt bolts to the seat right here. All right, so now that we got all the seats out, next is the center console. So the first thing you want to do is you're going to want to open the hatch, look down in there. This thing comes out, and once you get that out, you see those 2 bolts right there, and there should be 2 bolts right there on this side, but one's missing. So those are 8mm bolt heads. So we take those 4 bolts out, and then we'll start popping the trim off right here. They're gonna have 2 bolts on each side right there, and then we got to undo the shifter cable, and then that whole thing will be able to come off. All right, so once you get those 4 bolts out right there, you come up here and remove this plastic that sits right there, and they'll have 2 10mm bolts, one here and then one there. You pull those 2 out. All right, so once you get those 2 bolts out there, you want to put the key, turn the key on, you want to shift it to neutral, and then you'll grab the whole center console and it'll lift up over the shifter itself. Now we're going to unplug all the wires going into the shifter and also undo the shift cable. Now there also is a plug under the bottom side. Don't forget to unplug that before you take it off. You might rip the wire. But now, since we got the center console out the way, we can really start taking the carpet out and start removing all the plastic trim around the sides, and we'll start showing you the process of how to remove the dashboard. All right, so once you get the trim pieces popped off that side and this side, you want to start removing the kick panel and the dashboard, whatever it's called. So you remove the glove compartment, and it'll give you all the access you need to unplug all these wires right here. Like I was saying, the body harness rolls up underneath this carpet, goes up, and it's got a bunch of plugs right there. Then we're going to remove the kick panel so we can get access to these wires. So you see right here, it's going to be a bolt here, a bolt here for the center of the dashboard. There's 3 bolts, 1, 2, 3 on the side of the dashboard. And then up here, we got to remove this plastic trim, and there's going to be 2 bolts right here, and there's going to be a bolt there and a bolt there. And then the dashboard will be able to come out. But we also, for the dashboard to come out, we have to unplug all the plugs on both sides, and we also have to remove the steering shaft inside the engine bay. When we pull the dashboard off, the steering shaft's going to slide through the firewall with the dashboard. He's unplugging all the plugs right here, because like I was saying, the body harness comes up underneath the carpet and plugs in. Remove that cover, give you some more room. There you go. There's all the plugs right there. As he's unplugging those, I also remembered you're also going to have to pull off this trim right here on both sides, because there's going to be another dashboard plug right behind the plastic right here in this area. So as soon as you pop that off, there's going to be another electrical plug right there and right there. All right, so I just pulled the trim piece off, and that's the plug I was talking about. Unplug that, and on the other side, unplug that one. Those also connect to the dashboard. So after you unplug all those there, that one and that one, we're gonna go on this side, remove the kick panel, and unplug also all of these plugs. All right, now once you get that plastic trim out the way, they got 2 bolts right there. They got that little bitty bolt right there, and that little bitty bolt right there. Those you're gonna have to remove, because those hold the front of this dashboard to the firewall. Once you get those removed, they got those, see those black bolts in here, one there, one right here on each side, and then there'll be one there on each side. All those wires you're gonna want to unplug from the body harness, and then on this side, there's gonna be 2 more plugs right here that you're gonna have to unplug from the body harness. And then there's gonna be 1 more wire coming from the firewall that goes right here. This is your transmission control module. So this you're gonna have to undo and then slide it through underneath there. So whenever we pull the dashboard off, none of these wires catch. Now these little bolts right here in the front of the dashboard are very hard to get to. This little tool we got set up has, like, you gotta have a swivel. Because if you don't have a swivel, then the window is gonna be in the way. So those 2 bolts on this side are 10mm heads, and the 2 that are on that side are 7mm bolts. 3 right here are 10s. The one right there in the middle is a 10mm, and as the same on the other side. All right, so once you get all the bolts out the front, the bolts on the side, the 2 in the middle, and the bolts on this side, and unplug the wiring harness on both sides, the next step would be to start pulling the steering shaft. And the shaft comes out the firewall right here, and the shaft goes down. There's going to be a 10mm nut that you have to pull out, and then you'll be able to pull the shaft and the dashboard out. We're going to have to crawl underneath the car to be able to get to it. All right, so you see where the shaft comes out the firewall and goes down to the rack. There's a 13mm bolt on this one. Usually they're 10mm, but this is a 13. So we're going to pull this 13 out and this shaft will slide out of the sleeve where these two shafts come together. Once you pull that bolt out of there, you should be able to just wiggle it. So, got it out, you can slide it out, and then now we're gonna go grab the dashboard and pull the dash out. All right, so the process of removing the dashboard kind of takes two people. You need one person on that side, one person on my side. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna pick straight up, pull backwards, kind of gotta finesse it. You also, as you're pulling it backwards, you want to make sure there's no wires still catching you anywhere. All right, so this is what it looks like once you get the dashboard removed. See all these wires right here that comes up out the carpet? You gotta unplug those. You gotta unplug this. You gotta unplug these right here on this side. This has gotta get unplugged. That's gotta get unplugged. This right here has to get unplugged. Also, this right here plugs in on the back side of the dashboard in the center. So that's got to get unplugged. And then also these right here that go over and plug into those. So once we get the dashboard out, the next step would be to removing this, removing all the pedals, removing the carpet, and then we'll be taking all the body harness out and unplugging from the doors. We've got to remove plastic here. We got to remove all the trim back here because all the wiring harness goes up underneath all this and through. You see right there in the trunk, that's the wiring harness. Comes all the way through the car. It runs up, goes over, runs up, goes over, runs through the carpet, goes there, runs through the carpet, and goes there. All right, so you got to pull off this trim piece, the trim piece that goes here, and the trim piece that goes along there to be able to get the carpet out. But once you get the carpet out, you get an idea of how the body harness is laid out. See, it runs all the way to the back. Some comes this way, goes up, right here, goes up. So basically, it's really easy. The body harness plugs into everything. If you got one of these plugs not plugged in, it's not gonna work. It's very easy. So like, whenever I take stuff apart, like say this module right here sits on there. Instead of unplugging it, I unbolt it and leave it plugged in so I know exactly where it goes and I don't lose it, track of it. Like this one, I'm gonna unbolt this one but leave it plugged in so the module will stay with the body harness. So I guess our next step would be to start removing this. To remove this, there's a 10mm bolt right here. There's one right here, so one here and one here. And there's gonna be three more bolts from the inside of the firewall. Back there, you can see two of them. One here, one there, and then there's gonna be one more behind this air box for the AC. So we're gonna have to remove all of this right here, remove that box to be able to get to those three bolts, and then we'll remove that AC control unit. And once we get that removed, we'll start peeling the body harness out and working our way from the front to the back. Start unplugging everything and removing it, peeling it up off the floorboard and pulling it all the way to the trunk. We're gonna have to follow the wires up, unplug everything, follow the wires up, get everything unplugged. You have to remove this. It's gonna be wires under there. Also in the trunk, you're gonna have to take all of the trim out the trunk to be able to get to the wires. So the object is to remove all of this body harness wires that we see laying everywhere. We're gonna take it all the way out because we're gonna be installing the new Challenger harness. So for the AC control box, there's a 10 right here, 10 right there, and a 10 right there. You take those three 10s out, and there's gonna be two more 10s, one right here and one right there. Once you take those out on both sides, this whole box will come right off. Once you get all the bolts out, you should be able just to grab it, pull up, wiggle it, get it out of there. Oh yeah. Also, don't forget, like me, but I forgot, you gotta take off the AC, which is a 13mm bolt right there, and the water hoses, which you use a plier to take those clamps off. So take those off and then it'll come all the way off. All right, once we get the AC control module, box, blower motor, all that out the way, you can kind of start getting the more definition of what's going on with this body harness. You can see where it lays out. You can see this right here. This goes just to the engine bay. So if you want, you can push that through and lay it on top of the engine. What I'm about to start doing is I'm just gonna start going on down, starting from the front, working my way back and start unplugging everything. I'm gonna do the unplugged throttle, unplug right here where the harness goes through, and I'm gonna start undoing the modules and all the plugs, and I'm gonna start peeling the harness back to the back, and we'll pull it out the trunk. Whenever you're going from a newer body style, you're gonna have to use the newer pedals. The brake bracket, right, has 4 bolts that hold on to through the firewall. The bracket's not gonna match up with the newer body style. So what you gotta do is you gotta drill the firewall to be able to match. And when we get there, I'm gonna show you more detail on how to do it. But for now, we're just gonna go ahead and rip this harness out. And once we're done ripping the harness out, we'll start removing the full drivetrain. All right, so I'm in the back of the car now. And since we're using a Challenger, right, we're gonna use a Challenger body harness inside this 300. So what we're gonna need to do is we're gonna wanna cut right here. You wanna leave a good little length left because we're gonna have to re-wire these wires into the Challenger harness because the Challenger pigtail will not plug into the brake light. So we're gonna have to cut them, you know, leave us a good little length about right here because we're gonna, like I said, rewire them as on this side, you know, cut about right here. So we're gonna rewire those in, kind of give you an idea. Boom, that's it. Boom, that's it. Now, like I said, we're gonna take everything out of this 300 and put it in a Magnum. So just know that I gotta still wire these wires right here into the Magnum pigtails. So I'm gonna peel this back a little bit right here, peel this tape off so I'll be able to pull it back a little, and I'll be able to wire these harness into the Magnum whenever we put the 6.1 inside the Magnum. But for now, we want to leave these pigtails plugged into the taillights and leave some wires hanging off so we can be able to tap in the Challenger harness. And when we get to that point, I will show you exactly which wire goes where and what wire does what and how to rewire that. Along with the headlights in the front of the car, we're gonna have to cut those just like how we cut these so we can wire in the Challenger engine bay harness. This harness right here pulls through here, so you have to remove the speaker along with the same thing on the other side. You see the wire, you gotta remove the speaker to be able to get those wires from the body harness out. See the body harness wire runs up right there and goes right through the speaker. So I got the harness peeled back and rolled up right there on that side. Now I'm working on pulling this harness on this side and rolling it back, but I'm stuck now. So this right here is the emergency brake. You see the harness is right behind the emergency brake. So I'm gonna have to take this off to be able to pull the harness out and unplug the door harness. Now, you see there's a bolt here and 2 bolts there. Those 3 are the mounting bolts for the throttle pedal. And then they got 2 on the top and then 4 all the way around that. And then they got this clip right here. Pull this clip off and then the brakes will come off. Brake pedal assembly will come off. So you want to pull all 3 of those assemblies off, and then we'll be able to unplug everything and roll our wiring harness back. All right, so I got the brake assembly, throttle assembly, and the parking brake assembly bolted out of the way. Now I'll be able to get to my harness. So if you look in there, it's plugged up. That's a door harness right there. So unplug that, and then we'll be able to peel our harnesses back. Just like how he is working from back there. pushing the harness back this way. I'm plugging everything and rolling it back this way. Eventually we're going to meet in the middle, and we're going to be able to just take the harness out completely. We got the wiring harness peeled back there. He's got one wire going through the fender well right there that he has to undo, and that's it. He'll be able to grab that whole harness and pull it out. And then we'll start, like I said, on the suspension and the engine, transmission, exhaust, rear end, all that. We're gonna rip all that shit out. Then we'll be able to start laying in our new body harness and showing you how to hook everything up and how to route everything, because since it's a Challenger going into a Chrysler, and this is a 2015 and above, and this is a 06 Chrysler, so a lot of stuff is not going to work and a lot of stuff has to be modified, but it is doable. Everything can be done very easily and modified very easily to work. Bare bones. So basically this is what you're going to have to do. You have to strip the whole interior out to bare bones. And once you get it like this, then we can start laying in the new body harness and getting that laid out. But before we do that, like I keep saying, we got to remove the engine and transmission. But it's the end of the day for today, so we're going to come back tomorrow and just drop the motor, transmission, and drop the rear end. Remove all of that. Pull it out from underneath of the car, and then we'll start laying in the new harness. All right, so we got the 6.1 out. Little old 5-speed automatic. Got the rear end drop and the gas tank drop, so we just gotta slide those out. Interior completely bone Joan, exterior bone Joan. Now I'm about to start going on all the little things that we need to modify before we can start putting this car back together. All right, guys, so there's going to be some modifications that we're going to have to do in the engine bay before we put the engine in, or before we start putting all the interior in. We have to drill a hole right here. I'd say about right there in that spot. We need to drill a hole because the new harness is going to have grounds right here. So we got to drill a hole for a nut and bolt to go in. And also, with the new body brake booster and pedal assembly, this bolt pattern right here is not the same bolt pattern. Studs right here line up on the outside of these holes. So basically what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a stepper bit right here and I'm gonna drill this hole out. All the holes, I'm gonna drill them out with the stepper bit until this slides into the holes. And once that happens, then we'll be able to bolt the pedal assembly in. But those are the two things that you got to modify real quick before you start installing your motor, because you got a lot of room right here. Once the motor's in here, you ain't got as much room as you would need. We're gonna slide like a bolt through, and all of our grounds are gonna be right here. So we're gonna slide this through, put a nut on the backside and tighten it up. And that will be where all of our ground wires and our engine bay harness line up, hooks up to. those drilled out. It is a little bitch, but once you get them drilled out, you should be able to finesse that on there. Bam, there we go. And once we bolt our brake pedal assembly on the other side of the firewall, it'll squeeze everything together. And that's how you modify the new body brake booster to be able to go on to the older style, like the 05 to 2010 300s, Magnums, and Chargers. All right, so I'm in the back of the car now. The next thing we gotta do is we're gonna have to drill a hole right here. We gotta drill a hole right there because on the newer cars, where the gas tank fill net comes up right here, they have a sensor on there. So a wire passes through right here and hooks up to the gas tank fill net sensor. It's like a pressure sensor of some sort. But so you gotta drill a hole there. And now, not only do we have to drill this hole for the wire to pass through, but on the inside of the car, the body harness, also, just like in the engine bay, the body harness has a ground that hooks up right here in the Challenger. The ground has like a little stud that sticks out. So we're gonna have to drill a hole right here and put a nut and a bolt for the ground on the new body harness. That's it. Now when we run the body harness through, we'll stick a bolt and a nut right there for the ground in the harness to hook up. Our last hole we got to drill out. You see that square hole down there? Well, on the body harness, they have wires that pass through right there, and it hooks up to the rear end. They got a sub harness on the rear end that hooks up right here. To be able to pass the new body harness through, that hole is too small. So what we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to take our stepper bit and we're gonna drill it all the way out so the plugs will be able to slip through the hole and pass through. And basically that's it. A perfectly good circle, and the plugs will fit through now. Since this car's got a sunroof in it, also the Challenger we got everything from also had a sunroof. All right, so we got the headliner out of the 300 right here. You see this harness that's glued to the headliner? What we're gonna do is we're gonna remove this harness, because this harness right here, it goes down in the front and plugs into the dashboard. Remember, right here? So this plug goes down and plugs into the dashboard. Well, this year car, this plug is not going to plug into our newer dashboard. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna remove this harness and we're gonna take the harness out of the Challenger and replace it with that one up here. Because also these plugs right here are for your sunroof plug. So if you ain't got this wire plugged in, then you're not gonna be able to control your sunroof. Well, new headliner, this headliner goes into the Challenger. And this is the 300 headliner. We just pulled the harness off, and now we're about to take this harness off and install it onto that one. But this is what I was talking about. The plug in the front is different. So if you want to have a functioning sunroof, you're going to have to change this headlight harness so this plug right here can plug into the dashboard. This wire right here on the 300 sits up like right there. So you're going to have to pull it out of its little spot, pull it all the way out so you can have slack, because on the Challenger, the wiring harness rolls up right here and goes like this and then plugs in. This is your main power source for your sunroof, right? So you got some wires right here that go inside the headliner, like I was just explaining, that go over and plug into the dashboard right there. Those are your controls. Those are your buttons that open it up and down, but those controls is what activates the wires in these that actually activates your motor. So you literally pull the wire back and give you slack to be able to plug it in right here when the harness comes up. So this is the new harness that we're putting on the headliner for the 300. So this will run down, this wire right here will run down the front, plug into the dash. These wires right here in the middle will plug into your controls, your lights and stuff right there. And all these little extra wires, they got some that go through, that hook up to the sun visor lights. Those hook up, but the rest of these plugs, literally you can just let them sit there. These are for like little speakers inside the little headliner. You just let those stay like that, because your only main focus is these, and then the one going to the dashboard, and then your lights for your sun visors go through there. So now we got the new harness from the Challenger installed on the 300. We should be able to install this now. I like to get the headliner out the way before we start cramming everything into the car, because once you start getting everything built inside here, it's really tight to pull the headliner in and out without damaging it. Because if you fold it or crease it anywhere on the headliner, it will rip and start tearing. I'm using my head to hold the back up while he starts hooking up all the front. But as you can see, we got our 3 wires coming down for the little piece for our switch panel. We also got our wire that comes down right there for the dashboard. And also remember that wire I was showing you for the sunroof? I got that pulled out right here, so it'd be easier for me to just, whenever I run the body harness in, I can just plug it right in, and I ain't got to stick my arm through here and fish it up underneath the headliner. So I got that sticking out, so I can literally just plug it in. And then once all that plugs in, that plugs into the dash, and then we got the switch panel plugged up in there and everything hooked up in the car, we're gonna have a functioning sunroof. So this right here is the sunroof switch panel and the lights that go back there in that little square. So this one's from the Challenger, and I'm pretty sure the 300 one is the same exact 3 plugs that plug into it, but we're just going to use the one out the Challenger to make sure 100% that it works. See those 3 little pigtails right there go into the back, and then it clips up right into there. So we're just going to go ahead and use the Challenger one just so we know it works 100%, but I'm also almost 100% that the 300 one would work also. But we're just not going to chance it today. All right, well, Evan's still putting the rest of the bolts in the headliner. I'm gonna start mounting our new pedals. So whenever we're using an old body style like this, remember I had to modify the booster, just like how I was showing y'all a couple minutes ago. We modify that so the booster can slide through and the studs stick through. Well, those studs go through this brake assembly right here and bolts it all together to the firewall. So that's why we had to drill out so we can make this work. Now, the reason why we gotta make this work is because of this brake switch right here. On the older ones, it's not the same as this pigtail, and also our throttle pedals are not the same either. It's a different pigtail. So you gotta swap the brake assembly and the throttle pedal assembly. Now I'm also using this off the Challenger just because it's new, but you don't necessarily have to use this. All right, so I got the brake pedal assembly bolted up, and I got the throttle pedal assembly bolted on. It's literally those nuts, 3 nuts on the throttle, 6 nuts on the brake pedal assembly. Now they're all 13mm nuts. So you get all those tightened down, and don't forget to throw your clip on that holds your shaft to the brake, because once you start putting the dashboard on, you're gonna have to reach through the dashboard to be able to put that clip in. So just go ahead and put it on now. Also, I am not installing this on there yet, because you remember whenever we were taking the car apart, we had to remove that to get the harness out from behind it. So we're gonna lay the harness out, put it in, and then bolt that down over the harness. All right, so this AC control box that houses the blower motor and all the modules for the AC and the control vents and stuff like that, this is from the newer Challenger. So I'm gonna go ahead and bolt that to the firewall now. That has to be swapped over also during the swap. All right, so when you slide the AC control box on, they have these 3 studs right here that come through the firewall, and you put 10mm nuts on it, and you tighten those up. All right, so what I'm about to do now is I'm about to start installing the engine bay harness. Now this harness right here, this is not the engine harness. This is the engine bay harness and fuse box. So this harness, it lays out just how I got it right now. These wires go through the firewall. That goes across the back of the firewall. Those go through the firewall. This comes up the side and plugs into the headlight on the driver's side. This comes up the side and plugs all in on the passenger side. So got it all laid out, and I'm gonna lay it in the engine bay just like that. Now also, ABS control module, the bracket that holds the fuse box, and the brake lines are all this right here is from the Challenger, which the 392 came out of. You're gonna have to have all these parts. So once you get this bracket for the fuse box bolted down, I'm gonna grab your harness. The first thing I usually do, which is easy, I'll just take this end that goes through the firewall, and I'll just go ahead and shove it through the firewall. And then I click the rubber down into the firewall so it stays in and holds it pretty good for me. Next, I'll take the fuse box, and I'll take the wires on the other side and route them just like that. And then I'm gonna clip the fuse box down into its spot. Boom. Fuse box clips down to this little bracket. Got this wire right there. Got this wire that runs across right here. We got our wire going into the firewall. Now this right here runs across the back of the firewall. And then we got another wire right here that goes through the driver's side firewall. You route this wire up underneath the brake cylinder, and you shove it through the hole. And it's also got a rubber grommet that holds the wire really nice and tight on the firewall. Then we want to run our wires up to the headlights. Just stick them off to the side. Fuse box clipped down. Wire runs like that. Those wires go through the firewall. These wires are for the computer and stuff. Run that across the back of the firewall. They got one wire that goes through right there. These wires right here, one of them hooks up to the cylinder, one hooks up to the vent right here, and then one of them hooks up to the AC line that goes right here. And the rest of these wires go up. One's for the headlight and some's for suspension components. So I just lay it over right there for now. And then we got all these wires right now we have to worry about. So these wires get routed right through here like that. And then those are the grounds I was telling you about earlier. Remember when we was drilling this hole? We take all these grounds and we put a bolt and a nut and ground it out to the car. Now, these wires right here, these are for the power steering. And then that white and gray plug goes to the water reservoir that squirts water onto the windshield. So we take these wires like this and we just shove those into the hole. Boom. Throw those down in there and just let them hang for now. This wire right here, this plug will plug into the ABS. So I'm about to clip the ABS into these rubber garments, plug that in, and I'm also about to start hooking up all the brake lines. Remember, these brake lines right here came from the Challenger because you see how they're bent up, and where they hook up to the ABS module is a different location than the original ones that came out this car. And then plug it in also. Boom. Now I got the ABS in. We can take our brake lines right here. And get these routed. So the whole point of me throwing in the engine bay harness real quick was for the simple fact of putting these wires through the firewall right here and the wires through the firewall on this side right there. So once you put those through, you see I got it through right here. These wires will lay across and plug up right to the brakes. And then the wires that go through on that side, these wires right here that come through the firewall, they hook up to the body harness also. So these wires, all these wires right here, lay over and they all plug in right here in this general direction. Some got some plugs here, some got some plugs here. So the body harness, the wires that go through the dashboard, firewall, the wires on the dashboard, they all plug in right here to the body control module. Also got this wire that goes up that plugs into the dashboard. So once we get this body harness laid out, you'll see all these plugs get plugged in on this side, all this get plugged on this side, and then we'll slap the dashboard in, and we'll also run the wires from the body harness everywhere it needs to go, and we're going to show you the whole process. So we're starting to lay the body harness in now, and what you're going to want to do is, obviously the fuse box goes in the trunk and the main power wire that's for the battery goes in the trunk. So what you want to start doing is untangling the harness, and you want to throw everything that's for the back, the fuse box, you want to put all that in the back, and then you want to lay the harness out, because you know this red wire runs through the floorboard right here and hooks up right there to the firewall. So if you lay those out first, you'll be able to know where the rest lays out. So you get that harness laid out like that, and there'll be wires that runs up on this side, there'll be wires that runs up this way, there'll be have wires in the trunk, have wires that cross over and come this way. We also have plugs that plug into the dash here on both sides. Center console has plugs. First things first, get all this set up, get your engine bay harness through the firewall, and then start throwing in the body harness. Also, make sure you modify your sunroof like we did and was showing you a minute ago, and have your plug hanging down right there, because that's where we're going to plug in from this body harness. Since it's the Challenger body harness, we're going to be plugging right there to the sunroof on the 300.
All right, you see how whenever he's laying out the harness, he's laying what leg of the wires need to go in which direction. So lay the wires out, and then I guess he's starting to hook up all these wires right here in this general direction. Speakers plug in. The defroster for the windows, they all plug in the same. Everything's pretty much the same between the Dodge years. There's some plugs that are going to be different, and usually when you run into that problem, you'll take your old harness that came out the car originally and cut the plug and just re-splice them. Basically what we're going to do with the taillights and headlights. Now there's that one plug right there I was telling you about. See that gray plug that plugs into the sunroof? So if you pull that wire out, like I showed you, and pull it all the way over to the side, it'd be a lot easier to hook up. Also, you see this little hump in the plastic? You're gonna have to cut that plastic off for the wire to lay down flat, because in the Challenger, that fits perfectly over the Challenger back seat. Since we're not in a Challenger anymore, and this car is a couple more inches longer, if you take that plastic out of the harness will lay down in that crack perfectly, and it'll give you the couple inches you need from 2-door to 4-door. All right, so I'm on the passenger side. You want to run your power wire up under there and then bolt it down to the junction on the Firewall. Now, you can see we got all these extra wires right here. This wire right here goes to the center console. Boom. They got these two wire plugs. These go to the bottom of the seat. And you got this little module right here. This little module literally slides and bolts down right there. You also got this module that slides and bolts in right there. And then we got all of these plugs right here from the harness. Literally sit all right here, and all these wires right here, and these wires plug in together. And there's also going to be a body control module that goes here, and all these wires all plug in together. So this box right here, this is from the Challenger also. This is a module, that's a module, the computer's a module that sits in the front and over there, and there's the RSM that sits in the back window. Those are all modules, and they all need to be from the same vehicle connected. So this module right here hooks up to all these wires. All these wires tie in. This module sits on the Firewall like that. Well, this car doesn't have the mount like the Challenger would. It'd have studs that mount this to it. But once you get all these wires hooked up and plugged in, it literally kind of sits perfectly. Like the wires hold it up. The dashboard covers it up. Everything sits in a nice tight spot. So if you want it, you could probably throw some zip ties or something to hold it perfectly, but usually I just let it sit in there free. All right, so the wires that come right here through the Firewall, there's 3 of them. There's this plug, there's this brown plug, and then there's a wire that goes across and hooks up right there. And this wire right here comes across and it plugs into the body control module. Now there's one more wire that comes through the Firewall. This wire right here is your throttle. It goes straight to your throttle pedal. So you would throw that around, or wire it up underneath and plug it into the throttle pedal. Now there's going to be this plug, these plugs right here, and one plug right here not plugged in. Those plugs right there come from the dashboard. So whenever we set the dashboard on, those plugs got to get plugged in. So don't forget about that. So I'm about to wire up my throttle pedal over that side and plug the throttle in. But basically I got everything plugged in. And don't worry, nothing can get plugged into another spot. Meaning if I pull this white one out and put it over here where the black one goes, it wouldn't even go in. They're all designed to go in one way and one way only. So you cannot mix up these plugs. Also, don't forget that this one comes up like that underneath the carpet, and it gets plugged into the center console. Pedal plug, go through the top, go around, and then you'll be able to plug it into the throttle. Now, Mr. Evans over here cutting that plastic like I was telling y'all, that big hunk of chunk right there. You gotta cut that plastic out so the body harness can sit flush and lay down nice and neat. Evan ran the wires up, hooked them all in right there. He ran the wires up on this side, which is for the RSM. They got a wire that comes across, that plugs in. Make sure you got all the plugs in that RSM module because it won't start if those aren't plugged in. And then also, remember that hole we made right here? This is our ground wire. So we're gonna stick a bolt and a nut through there, and that's gonna be our ground. Also, see the wire going through right there? That's the hole we drilled earlier for the little pigtail that goes to the gas fill-up neck. You see how I'm pulling that rubber, forcing it through the hole so it can have a nice watertight seal. Also, here's the wires that go down. These 3 plugs go down into that hole right there that I drilled earlier. So we shove those down through there. Also, don't forget about, you got another set of wires that go through there that hook up to a couple modules inside this fender liner.
Here, I'm gonna pass this.
Hand me that. So here's one of the modules right here. This literally is supposed to bolt there. Like you see him passing the wires through now. You see it's got the rubber garment. Pull it tight. Make sure it gets notched in there so it's got a nice and watertight seal. And all these, one of those gets plugged into that right there. And then the other one goes up to a vent. They're gonna have a fuel vent from the gas tank. We ain't got the gas tank in yet, but once we get that put in, then we'll plug in that that pigtail for the vent. So you see, he just took the plastic out, and now the harness sits in its groove nice and neat. See the harness, it jumps across and it goes up and hooks up like there, and then also goes forward. Got a bunch of plugs that we need to hook up there, and they got the seat plugs. Now also, I forgot to show y'all this plug right here. This is your door harness plug. So what you're going to want to do is shove it into that hole. Don't plug it in to this harness, because we're gonna have to take this door harness out, and we're gonna have to replace the whole door harness from inside this door to the Challenger one. Even if it does plug in, don't plug it in, because the wires are not in the right location, so it could melt and pop fuses. So just shove it in the hole, because we're gonna be putting the dashboard in, and that's gonna be hard to get into that hole. But once we get everything put together and we start working on the door harnesses, we're just gonna come and pull this off and pull our plug through, and then we'll get the Challenger harness installed, and then we'll just plug them in and push them through. So I'm gonna go over here, find, well, that looks like it's right there. You can shove that through the hole. Pretty sure it's, I'm not sure, it might be both of those. Let me get this thing. Oh, I was wrong. Here it is. This is the one for the door. So you stick that in the hole, and we'll start hooking up the rest of these wiring. Mr. Evans in the trunk right now, snapping down the fuse box in its right location in the wiring back there. It's like he's shoving the wires through the hole for the rear end, the one we had to drill out.
We gotta make it bigger.
And we gotta drill it bigger. No problem. Just get a bigger drill bit. See, that's the problem. You see, this plug is a lot wider than that hole, so that's why we drill that hole bigger. here's the wire I was showing you earlier that passes through the firewall. So it goes up and it goes around. One of the wires plug into the brake switch, and the other wire clips down and plugs into this wire, which comes from the body harness. See it? So we get those plugged in right there. We got, remember, shove your door harness plug in there. And then the rest of these plugs right here plug into the dashboard. So you can just let those hang for now. So now that I got this actual door plug shoved into the hole, I can take this and bolt this down on now, and make sure when I'm bolting it down not to pinch the wiring harness. Bolt it down where the wiring has some slack. So I'm about to go ahead and install this brake now that I got this wire sitting behind it. All right, so in the body harness, we got our ground here. We got a ground under the driver's seat. We got a ground under the passenger seat. We got grounds back here. So this ground hooks up there. This ground hooks up there. Now, that's all the grounds in the body harness. And you got this one right here too. This one, it hooks up right there. So those are all the grounds in the body harness. And other than the body harness itself, the engine bay harness has the grounds right there, and this ground goes down here to this stud. If I can see it, boom. That ground goes there. Those 3 grounds go through that hole where I drilled, and those are the 2 grounds right there. And then off the engine, there's going to be a ground wire that comes from the transmission bolt to right here, and then there's also going to be a wire from the engine harness that goes right here. So those are all the grounds. Whole harness laid out, and we really cannot plug anything else in until we get our dashboard set in. We got those 3 plugs right there that go into the dash. We got these 2 plugs right here that go up to the seat. We got these 2 plugs that go up to the seat. Got this one plug that goes to the center console. And then we got this plug here and this open plug hole right there in the body control module. These 2 plugs there. So those are the plugs. They're not going to be plugged in. Everything else should be hooked up and plugged in. Now, the point that we're at, we're ready to set the dashboard in.
If you leave it there, you know where it's at when you jump the fence. Hang it.
I'm making a video right now.
Red light, red light.
Get your side in?
Yep. So up on the passenger side, I got this blue plug that comes down from the dashboard that plugs in the body control module. The plug here and then these 2 plugs here also come from the dashboard. This plug right here also comes from the dashboard. Now if you have everything hooked up right here, there's going to be 2 pigtails left over. This pigtail goes to the little bitty dust cover right here, have a light for your feet. So this goes to that, and then this one right here will go to the light in the glove box. All right, so remember on this side, they had those 3 wires that was sitting down right here. It was gray one, this black one right here, and this yellow one. So those 3 get plugged into the dashboard. Now they're gonna have these other plugs right here hanging for the cover that goes right here. It'll be the headlights and and then there'll be this one right here that also goes into the cover that goes right here. So literally, there should be nothing from the body harness right now at this point unplugged. Everything connected to the body harness is plugged in. The only thing that's not, which comes from the dashboard, that goes to this cover. So once we get to this point, we could literally, don't forget, these 2 right here, these go to the center console. And you got the seat plugs, boom, boom. And that's it, bro. It's really easy. Not forget to plug this one in. This is the wire that goes to your headliner that controls your switch for the sunroof.
So we pretty much got the wiring harness wired up all the way from the back seats forward. To be able to finish all this up here, we need to throw the carpets in, throw the center console on, and then bolt the seats down and all the trim pieces on the sides and up on the back. So this is pretty much done. We pretty much explained how to wire the wires all the way up here. Now we're moving from the back this way. So as you know, the harness comes across the back like that. This piece slides right there and clamps in. Harness goes down like that. The fuse box clamps in right here. Also got this ground coming from the harness. This right here goes straight downward through this hole, and that's plugs for the rear end. The harness comes through and up. You got your plug for the battery negative, and the wire comes this way, and this one goes through to the harness that's inside the back bumper. So the harness that's in this bumper, we haven't pulled the bumper off, but we're going to pull it off. We're going to take the harness out, and we're going to use the harness from the Challenger. And that's how we're going to be able to get our sensors working and our light for our license plate working. We're going to use the Challenger harness inside this 300 bumper. So we're going to take the 300 harness out and put the Challenger harness in. Well, we haven't made it to that far yet, but I'm going to show you that process. So it goes through right there. I just shoved it through for now because when we take the bumper off, we'll be able to have the plug and play with it right there. So then it comes across like this, and you got 2 plugs that go into this module. That plug right there in this year car has no pigtail that goes into it. So just leave that unplugged. There's nothing that goes there. Some years it does have plugs, some years it don't. So this plug right here is the original brake light plug for the Challenger. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna splice these 2 together. On this pigtail, you got your stop and your blinker lights. There's no reverse lights here. The reverse lights are right here because on the Challenger, the reverse lights are in the trunk lid. So we're gonna have to pull the reverse light wires all the way back down, run one to this side, and then run one to that side. So that's what we would do with those. So this right here, you just mount somewhere right here. Get it however you want it, mount it up. Then the harness jumps across like this. And then you got the other brake light pigtail from the Challenger. So basically the same thing. We're just going to splice those wires together right there. And then we're going to run our reverse light wire back down. And then we're going to run it across and hook it up. And then we'll be able to put all of our trim in. Now, the wire harness that comes through on this side, one plug goes right here into the speaker. And then this plug right here, they'll have a little light on the trim that goes right here, and you just plug this into the light, so when you open your trunk, you'll have a light inside at nighttime. Now, the harness that comes in through this side, one of the plugs go into the speaker, and then the other harness goes up through this hole, and it goes up, and it plugs into all this right here. Now this plug right here, this is gonna be for your reverse camera. And then this plug right here, this is for your reverse lights and your button that opens the trunk. Because on Challengers, they have a button, they have the reverse lights, and they have a camera on the trunk. Now, obviously, this plugs into the hatch. You get a ground on this side. So we're not done with this. We're gonna pull those wires back for the reverse lights and wire up these, and then the trunk will be completed. So this is the 300, right, pigtail. It plugs into 300 tail lights. So I stripped the wires, got those ready. This is the Challenger one, right? Here's the wires right here. So the way that I know which wire is which, that goes into which wire on that, I use the diagram right here. All right, so that was the diagram for the Challenger pigtail right here. Now, here's the diagram for the 300 pigtail. Using those two diagrams from the two different pigtails, you can see they're labeled ground, stop, turn, and, you know, park. So using those, I'm gonna match all of these wires up to this pigtail, wire them together, use my solder gun and some solder them up so they got a good connection, and then we'll plug them in. But I also got to wire up that reverse light pigtail right here. Like I was saying earlier, it has the reverse lights and it has the wires going to the button on the trunk. Now here is the diagram for this pigtail that I use to be able to know which wire goes where. Now, using that diagram that was just seen, I will get the reverse light for the left side and the reverse light for the right side. And I'll sit here and I'll just cut it with my snips. And I'll peel both of those all the way back down to back under here. And then I'll run the reverse side for the right side to my pigtail. See, I already got the other ones wired up, just waiting on the reverse light. So I'm gonna peel that back, wire it in there, and then the left side I'm gonna peel back. I'm gonna run across the top here and then go behind the panel and hook up to this side. Now, when using this Challenger harness, they got one wire right here that don't get used. So these three wires right here get used. Black is obviously ground, one of these is the park, and one of these is the stoplight. And then this is called a stop sense. So since we're using an older style car, this wire right here does not get used at all. So we wire these three wires into the 300 pigtail, which the black right there is ground, obviously. And then the other two, one's the park and one's the stop. So those are going to be working the stop lights, the running lights, and the turn signals and the emergency lights are all going to be working off of those three. Then right here, we got this one. This one right here would be the reverse light that we would wire up from, boom, boom, this pigtail right here. Now that I got my two wires for the reverse lights cut off this pigtail, I can start pulling them all the way back through the harness and then wire them up to the pigtails. Now, while I've been working on these this whole time, Evan's been throwing in the carpet, all the little plastic trims, and he's starting to put the glove box on and then the kick panel on, and he's gonna throw the seats and stuff like that on. All right, so I pulled my reverse wires back, taped this wire back up because I had to untape it and undo everything. So I got the wires wired back, and I'll sit here and I take one, and that green wire right there, I'll wire those, twist those two together, and that's reverse light will be functioning on this side. Then I take this wire and then I'll twist it together right there, and then I'll have a functioning reverse light. This one though, it's a little too short, so I'm gonna have to make an extension because, you know, once you get it up behind all this trim, it's only gonna line up way over here. So just gonna make an extension from there to there where it plugs in. and then all the trim can close up and you won't even see none of these wires anywhere. So I'm about to twist those together, solder them, heat shrink them, and then I'm gonna plug them in, and then we'll start throwing all the trim back here. All right, so we got all the carpet in, the center console's in, the glove box is in, the kick panel's in on that side. Mr. Evans putting all the trim on. He's hooking up all the trim across the back, on the sides, and he's gonna go throw the back seats in. I got everything tidied up with the wires back here and the reverse lights. All right, so this is the Challenger headlight pigtail. Both of these are right here. This little one is like a side marker for inside the Challenger headlight housing. And we're not gonna worry about this one at all. We're gonna just let that one sit, you know, on the harness. If you wanted to, you can wire these up to like halos or whatnot. That's what you use this for, but we're not gonna mess with it. So we're gonna stay focused on just the wires going into this main pigtail. You're gonna have your turn signals, you're gonna have grounds, you're gonna have a high and a low for your headlights. Now, on the older style 300, they would have this would be your low beam right here. It'd have a pigtail plug in for your low beam. It'd have a pigtail plug in right here for your high beam. And then you would have your park and your turn signals and a ground going into this plug right here. So we got those prepped, right? Since they got all, you can see these wires they got in here, they got some halos in there wired up. So I'm just gonna wire it up exactly how I cut it. So this would be the low beam. I'm gonna wire the low beam to this. This would be the high beam right here. I'd wire these wires to the high beam, and then these wires right here would be my turn signal, park, and a ground. So I got 2 grounds on this pigtail, and I got 1, 2, 3 grounds on the headlight side. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna double up. I'm gonna double up these 2 grounds and connect it to one of the grounds on this, and then connect the other 1 ground to the 1 ground that's left over. So I'm about to show you the diagram right now for this pigtail, so we know which wires are what. So we need to hook up to right here in this direction, right? So this one right here would be the low beam, this hole right here would be the high beam, and these that plug into the housing right here would be your park, your turn signal, and a ground. So we're gonna look at the diagram now, and that'll determine which wires need to go where in the headlights. Using the diagram I just showed you for this pigtail right here, I'm gonna start cutting one by one and matching one by one to where they go. The reason why I say one by one is because sometimes you see that white and green and that white and green. If I was to cut all these together, I wouldn't know which white and green goes where. So make sure you do one at a time before you mess yourself over. Now that I got both sides of the headlights wired in using those diagrams I just showed y'all, now I'm gonna start, I guess I'm gonna start sliding this engine with the come along. I'm gonna hook the come along to it from that tree over there, and I'm gonna come along it and slide it all the way over and then pull it up underneath the car.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn, ain't that great. I don't wanna go to work, cause my boss is a jerk, and I'm not even that paid. I need a change in my life, cause I don't feel alive, and there's nothing that makes.
Now that we got the engine in, we got our 4 subframe mounts down there on the frame bolted up. We got our struts bolted in, and we got our spindle hooked up to the top A-arm. So our engine's sitting in there good now. We would be able to start hooking up all the rest of the engine bay. And I'm gonna sit here and explain to you where every wire hooks up. So let's go to this side right here. We got a couple plugs right there. And we got these plugs coming from the engine. See this ground? That goes right there. And like I said, there's another ground right here that comes from the transmission bolt on the bell housing. That gets hooked up there.
That will not reach yet because I don't have the transmission mount bolted onto the body. Once I bolt that up, the back of the engine will tilt back forward, and then that'll give me enough slack to hook it up. These plugs right here go to the computer. This one right here hooks up right there, and then you got your 2 computer plugs. That one plugs in like that. And you got your 2 plugs right here that goes into the computer that sits right here. You got this extra wire right here that goes to the bottom of this bracket. And this wire right here, it tells you when the hood's open and close. But those grounds go there, and that's it. Those hook up to computers. Boom. Then it's the rest of these wires on this side. I was explaining to y'all earlier what these hooked up to. This booster goes there. That wire plugs into that one. This long wire right here, this one goes to the windshield wipers. And then the leftover wire is the one that goes to the AC pressure on the AC line. Then you got your transmission cable. You can slide that on into the hole. Pull it out like it. Just remember, you're gonna have to go through the dashboard and grab this and hook it up to the shifter release. And that rubber slides all the way in, and you got a watertight seal now. Now obviously, you know your water hoses go there. More. Yeah. Those 2 water hoses go like that. I just heard the metal clip hit the ground down there. You got another water hose that goes right here that would go to your jug. You got your radiator hose that go to your bottom of your jug. Then basically everything else is self-explanatory. Y'all should be able to know how to disassemble and reassemble an engine bay. But those are just the main plugs that you're gonna need to be worrying about to plug in to get everything going. This would be the fan plug right here. I just have it set up. I got the horns. I'm gonna mount those up after I get the radiator set in. So I guess I'm gonna start hooking everything up right here in the engine bay.
Changing my life, cause I don't feel alive and there's nothing that makes me happy.
I got everything bolted up and secured throughout the engine bay in this area, like on the firewall on the sides right here on both sides. Hooked up all of them right there in the windshield wipers and stuff. Now the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna slide the radiator up from under the bottom, shove it up, bolt the bracket underneath it that holds it on, hook up all the hoses and lines, and then I'll be able to take my horns and bolt them up right here to the radiator support on the upper part, and then we can throw our bumper on, and then we'll start hooking up our brake lines and the rest of these pigtails right here. And then after that, I guess we'll slap the rear end, the drive shaft, and put the exhaust on, and then bleed the brakes, and then we should be done with this John. All right, so I got the radiator and the front bumper installed. Everything in the engine bay hooked up. All we gotta do now is start hooking up the brake lines and the wiring harness for the ABS on both sides, put the fender wells in. But we're starting to get a car again. It's starting to look like something other than nothing. Well, we got something going. We got the gas tank and the rear end slapped in. Everything's bolted up and hooked up. That one hole we had to drill, this was the pigtail I was talking about on the gas tank fill neck. They got this sensor right here. And on the other side, wires come through. One of them goes up and goes to this vent for the gas tank up here, and the other one comes this way and goes to the module right there and bolts up to the frame. Now we can go ahead and start throwing our fender wells in. All right, we just slapped the battery in there.
let's see if cycle the ignition to get some fuel, the fuel pump pumping some fuel in the lines. Oh, that was fast. Now, we do not have the exhaust on or the drive shaft on yet. We got the exhaust right there, but we're not going to put it on because we need a drive shaft. We have a Challenger drive shaft, but it's not going to work because it's too short. This right here is the harness from the Challenger driver's side. Now, the driver's side's always going to be left, and the passenger side is going to be right. So we got the left module and the left door harness. Now what we're going to do now is take this panel off, and we're going to remove the 300 original harness, and the wires going to the lock and the wires going to the electric motor. We're going to cut the pigtails. We're going to leave a good bit of wire left, and we're going to leave them plugged into the motor, and we're going to leave the pigtails plugged into the lock, and we're going to rewire those straight to this harness, and that's how we're going to get everything functioning. And I'm about to show you how to do that now. Let's go ahead and start pulling this panel off.
I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn ain't that great. I don't wanna go to work, cause my boss is a jerk, and I'm not even that paid. I need a change in my life, cause I don't feel alive, and there's nothing that makes me happy. Hold my beer for a minute, I'm about to quit my job, cash in for a ticket.
Alright, so I got the old 300 harness removed. Now when I was removing the 300 harness, this wire, these 4 wires right here go all the way to the door lock pigtail, right? So I pulled a bunch of it out, got me a good amount of slack, and I cut them. Same thing with the pigtail that goes into the electric motor. I didn't even unplug it. I just cut the wires. I pulled them back as far as I could, and I cut them. So the reason why is because we're going to be cutting the pigtails off of this new harness, and we're going to be wiring straight into these pigtails. So it's going to be the 300 pigtails onto the Challenger harness. All right, so I got my wires prepped. I stripped the ends of them. Now, looking at the new Challenger harness, there's going to be this pigtail right here. This is the door lock pigtail for the Challenger harness. Now this pigtail doesn't plug in inside here to this door lock, and you cannot put the Challenger door lock here because the bolt pattern is not the same. So using the 300 door lock, you just leave it plugged in and you cut your wires. Now if you look at the colors match. So we got a tan and a green, we got tan green, we got purple, and then on this one we got a purple. We got a green, we got a green, we got an orange and black, and then we got a solid black on this one. So we match those wires together. We're gonna cut this pigtail off and hardwire these wires straight to these wires. And that's how you're gonna get your door lock to function. Now, as for this pigtail right here, this is the original Challenger pigtail that plugs into the electric motor. This pigtail does not plug into this new motor, and the Challenger motor does not bolt up to this track because it's not the same bolt pattern. So what you're gonna have to do is same thing what we did with this. We're gonna cut this pigtail off, and we're gonna color match it to the pigtail that goes to the motor. So we cut extra off so we can splice those in, and then now we're gonna have a functioning window. So I'm gonna go ahead and slide this harness through there, and then we'll start wiring it all up. And then also, when you get the harness in, since this harness is not made for this door, you're gonna wanna route it and have everything tied up where it don't catch the window when it goes up and down. These wires tapped in, those were color for color, matched up perfectly. Twisting them up, taped them up, good connection. Now, from the Challenger this is the Challenger harness on this side, and then on this side would be the 300 harness. Now they got this extra wire right here that does not even get hooked up. But you got orange and white going into orange and white. You got orange and green going into orange and blue. You got orange and silver going into orange and blue. And you got two solid oranges going together. You got solid black and a black and orange going together. And then this one right here is just a reference. So that one don't even get hooked up at all, because on the Challenger side, there's 5 wires. And on the 300 side, there's 6 wires. But with those hooked up, the window will function. It will go up perfectly fine. But just like on the taillights and the headlights, how I use those diagrams, that's basically what I used to be able to figure out which wire goes to what on that electric motor. So I'm about to tape this up, get all these wires situated where it won't catch the window when it goes up and down, and then I'll throw my door panel back on, and then we'll be done with the doors.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. Everything I do so instinctive and so passionate. Every word I move so descriptive like an adjective. I got a vendetta against people who patented being negative when you should be getting after it. I got facts over tracks, this and that, spitting slow,
All right, so I got the harness in there somewhat. I still got to zip tie everything to make it situated. But before I put the panel on, I got the switch hooked up into the harness. I'm about to turn the ignition on with everything plugged in. I'm going to see if the windows go up and down and if the lock works, just to confirm, so we don't waste our time putting this on and have to taking it back off. So I'm going to turn the ignition on. Let's see. We'll mess with the lock. It unlocks with the door open. It won't lock, but it unlocks. See, if I was to push it down, it goes up. All right, let's see the window. Window works. Oh, it's catching the harness. See, this is what I was talking about. You gotta situate it where the window don't catch it. So yeah, I'm about to throw some zip ties. Window works good. Even the auto works. See, I'm not even touching it. Oh fuck, forgot about that harness again. But anyway, get all that zip tied and pulled out where it don't catch on the window. Everything's good here. Now I can start putting on my door panel after I get all this harness situated where it won't catch the window going up and down. Door panel back on. We got the new Challenger harness installed, plugged in. Everything's working. Now all we have to do now is we have to trim out this trim right here, so this will slide down in there and notch down and sit flush. Let's go ahead and watch. See if we can get the windows to go up and down for you. So down, up, push the lock down, hit the unlock button. That's it. Everything works now. Mr. Evans over there wiring up his doors to work and function just like how these are. He's doing the same process I just did on this one, on that one. Now, since we're using a Challenger everything, we're not going to have functioning back doors at all. This is not going to work. Unlocks are not going to work. I have yet not figured it out how to wire this door up to work with the front doors. So if you do know how, definitely give me some information. But we're gonna finish up on that door now, and then we'll start bleeding the brakes and putting the tires on, and then we'll just be sitting around waiting for a drive shaft, because that's the Challenger one and we're about 2 to 3 inches too short. And that's what it looks like whenever you trim it to fit and sit down flush. I mean, best I can do without replacing the door panel to the new body style. All right,
So since we got everything working, let's go ahead and see if our sunroof works. So let's go ahead and turn the ignition on without starting it. And then right here would be our buttons right here. Let's press the vent. And let's open it. Yep. So everything works right there. Sunroof works perfectly. Every function works.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever.
So we got the brakes bled and we got the wheels mounted. Now we did not install the drive shaft and we did not install our exhaust yet. The reason why is because we don't have the drive shaft yet, so we're still waiting on that to come in the mail. But we're setting it on the ground. Everything's completed with the car, so we're setting it on the ground and we're gonna roll it out of our way, because on the next video that I was about to be posting, on the next swap, we're gonna be pulling in a Magnum and we're gonna be putting that 6.1 that we pulled out of this car into the Magnum. So we're just gonna go ahead and start working on the next project while we wait on that drive shaft. For us, it's gonna be a couple days, but for you, it's gonna be a split second right now. Just like that, the new drive shaft is in. We're about to slide up under there and stick it on. Now, like I was saying with the drive shafts, we were using everything out of a 2015 and up Challenger for the swap. So the Challenger drive shaft is obviously too short. You know, Challenger's 2-door, this is a 4-door. So the drive shaft that we needed, which is right here, this drive shaft comes from a 2015 and up V8 2-wheel drive Charger. It can be a 5.7, a 6.4, or the 6.2. The only thing, it has to be 2-wheel drive. So the 5.7s come in 2-wheel drive and all-wheel drive. So the all-wheel drive is not going to work. So you're going to need a 5.7 2-wheel drive or 6.4 or 6.2. All right, Evan's finishing up putting the drive shaft on right now, and I'm getting set up to put the Freon in. So here's the trick in the way that I do it. So right here in the fuse box, this is the AC clutch relay. So what I do is I'll take a jumper wire and put it in that side, and then I'll come to this one. And if I put it in, you'll hear the AC clutch clicking. So what I do is I'll jump it, right? I'll jump this over, turn the AC clutch on manually. I'll start the car, put everything on full blast, AC in the car. Now I'll come over here and I'll pump 1 can into this bottom port right here. And then 1 can's done, and then I'll turn the car off. I'll come over here, take my jumper wire off. I'll put the relay back in, and I'll start the car back up with all the AC on inside on the dashboard. And with just that 1 can, now the system reads some pressure. The AC clutch will come on by itself. And as soon as it clutches on, you can pump the rest of these 2 cans in there, and then you'll have cold AC. And that's the process I do on every 2015 up Charger, Challenger, or Hellcat.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. Everything I do so instinctive and so passionate. Every word I move so descriptive like an adjective. I got a vendetta against people who patented being negative when you should be getting after it. I got facts over tracks, this and that. Spitting slow, spitting fast. I could roast, I could gas. Think I'm okay at last, but I don't know if that can erase all the past. And the pettiness, a reflection of the emptiness. Hilarious, you think you're worth my time, you're delirious. Mysterious, because you hide behind a fake exterior. Inferior, you know I'll always be a bit superior. Get off of me, this ain't no humble brag. I want you to hear words, you can say them back. I want you to feel free from the chains at last, and to believe in what you got, it was built to last, yeah.
Now that I've been put through hell, I never got anyone's help. I
had to do it all myself.
About to go for a cold start, see what it sounds like. I just finished putting all the little trim pieces, so this is going to be the finished product of what the interior is going to look like.
I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bit.
What y'all think about that? That thing does burnouts pretty good. It was first gear, second gear, third gear, and I held it to the floor, and it was roasting third gear pretty damn good. So I would say that's a successful 6.4 swap into a 300 from a 2015 off Challenger. Go take it on the road and see what it can do. think it's a successful build.
Alright guys, so I would say that was a successful SRT swap into this old school 300. Now remember, the 6.1 engine, the SRT8 6.1 full drivetrain out of this car, we're putting it in another car. So stay tuned for the next video that's about to drop. A little hint, it's a Dodge Magnum. If you haven't liked or subscribed, please do it. If you'd like to see more content, we're gonna be definitely building more swaps, so stay tuned.